This is TWiT.
The FCC yesterday proposed new rules that would bring cable TV to the internet in a big way. Julian Haddam is covering the news for The Hill, and Alex Barinka wrote about it for Bloomberg News. They both join us now. Welcome to you both.
Thanks so much for having us.
Now, Julian, the rule change was made public in a blog post by FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler. What are those changes, and how would they change the internet TV landscape?
So, like you said, this is still in the early stages of the process, but effectively what Tom Wheeler wants to do is extend the current cable TV rules to not just cable and satellite, but also over the internet. And theoretically, as far as he hopes, what this would do would create cable companies online. So it would allow cable companies or new upstart companies to launch an online service that would allow for them to get multiple live channels of television. So this is kind of above and beyond Netflix and Hulu in that it would be not just pick and choose what shows you want to watch when, but it would be multiple channels and live. So there would be at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, there's this show at 8 o'clock, that show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it would allow these companies to have the same rights to buy those shows that cable and satellite companies currently have, which could theoretically make it a lot easier to watch TV on your computer than on your TV.
Interesting. Alex, can you tell us how what the cable companies think of the proposal?
So we were not able to have them kind of chime off on things, but if you remember, you know, CBS is now offering over the top offering. You have HBO. Dish has come out and said they're looking at the same thing. For them, they are really caring about that negotiation about these new, if this were to pass, if these new online services were to be able to act like cable companies, they still will have to negotiate to get their hands on the content. So for the broadcasters, the ones who have taken issue with companies like Aereo in the past, that is key for them because they still want to be able to get those licensing fees for the shows and movies that they're making in-house.
Alex, you wrote a great piece for Bloomberg about how this affects Aereo. First of all, can you just review for us Aereo's strange business model, what happened to them in the Supreme Court, and how this affects them?
Sure. So Aereo was a startup, an online TV startup backed by the likes of Barry Diller, who had thousands and thousands of antennas. It would capture broadcast streams, so those channels that you can still get with an antenna, and deliver it to customers online on the internet from the market that you're in. So if I'm in my apartment in New York, then there's, an antenna within the area that would send me, the local news if I wanted to tune into that. The broadcasters sued ABC and other broadcasters sued Aereo. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court earlier this year, and the court basically said, Aereo, since you look like a cable company and you're not paying licensing fees because they were not paying fees to the broadcasters, you are violating their copyright. So that kicked the Aereo case back down to the district court. It's in the district court in New York right now. And since then, the judge there, Judge Nathan, has said, we're going to go back and review all of this. Right now, you need to cease operations, which they had already done. And, Aereo had gone to the judge and said, so since the Supreme Court said we look like a cable company, then we should be entitled to that license. The judge said, no, hold on. Right now there's no kind of premise for you as an online service, so you're going to have to go through the Copyright Office. The Copyright Office says, hold on, well, we need to see what happens in court. So for them, Wheeler coming out with this proposal is kind of a beacon of hope that there's some kind of life left in the company, because if this kind of, new characterization of these video providers were to include these online services, then Aereo could theoretically, go back through the process, apply for this compulsive license to provide this content, and then go back to the broadcasters and negotiate for the rights to have their programming.
Huh. That sounds like an extremely labyrinthine process.
Julian, it's been a labyrinth for them.
Yeah, it's amazing they're still around. Maybe Julian, can you tell us how this is going to affect Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon's Fire TV?
Well, it remains to be seen. But theoretically, what Tom Wheeler has been saying is this could really open the door to a lot of that competition. In addition to Aereo, it could as Alex noted, Sony, Dish have kind of entering the market. Amazon, these other companies have started to look around on there. It's unclear, so far as I understand it, a lot of those other companies are still offering or seeking to offer kind of pick and choose TV channels. So if I want to watch House of Cards at this time and something else at another time, that's up to me. But the FCC regulation would only really apply to companies that offer streaming or live programming and multiple channels, which is really important. And so Aereo is a really good example here because that's effectively the kind of service that would seem to be allowed under this new regulation or these expanded regulations if they were indeed to go through. But one of the big questions still is whether or not the regulations will also extend some of the current requirements that currently exist for cable companies to online services. So, for instance, if you get a Comcast or Time Warner cable package, one of the rules says that they have to have broadcast channels like ABC, NBC, CBS on the lowest tier, so on the cheapest possible service channel. The current rules, or this proposed rules that Wheeler is making available, don't take a stand on that. It's asking whether or not that should be extended to online channels as well. There are some other questions along those lines and about what the obligations are for online services as well. So a lot of those things still have to be hammered out. This is certainly still kind of in the beginning process of the stages. But the theory is that it could certainly lead to more competition and more innovation. And Wheeler has said also to new kind of broadband infrastructure. Because if cable companies and internet service providers have an increasing interest in making sure that people get like really, really good, fast, high-speed internet, then they're going to start laying out those lines and making sure that people can get those high speeds so that they can pay $20, $40 a month, whatever, to watch TV through their computer.
And if anybody's interested about the monetization and the varying models that exist in the cable TV industry, check out last Sunday's TWiT show. There was a really amazing conversation about that was very illuminating. You can get that at twit.tv.